Thank you for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Tonight, the subject is murder. We're going to talk to one of our friends and community associates that is on parole for murder, talk about the trial in 1995, the difference between the prison system then and now, and how he is adjusting to life outside of prison, how he's changed his life, and hopefully to educate us about the criminal justice system through the eyes of Melvin Oles and my routine co-host, Danny Sneed. So without any further ado, Melvin, tell us who you are. Where were you born? Where'd you go to school? Who are you?
My name is Melvin Oles. I was raised in Los Angeles, California, and I went to school, 7 or 8 different schools because we were always moving from place to place. And 64 years old.
How'd you get here?
Well, I was born in Houston. My father was here, and a lot of my kinfolk are here also. But my mom took us to California when I was 7 years old and raised us there. And at the age of 19, I kept coming back and forth to see my father.
Okay. And so did you have an opportunity to graduate from high school?
No, I didn't. I finished high school in TDC.
Okay. Tell me why you dropped out of high school.
I dropped out of high school because I was in and out of the foster system all of my life.
In Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles. Just started hanging out with the wrong people and just trying to survive and start living the life of a street guy.
Now, what was going on with your mom in Los Angeles?
Well, she was a heroin addict. And
so was that the 60s?
Yes, ma'am.
The 70s, heroin?
60s.
Okay. Was she a heroin addict before she moved to Los Angeles?
No, she wasn't. Matter of fact, she was a high school queen for Jack Yates. And when she went to move to California, some type of way, she became hooked on drugs. I don't know how because I never asked her.
Were you an only child?
No, she had 10 children.
Now, did all 10 go to Los Angeles?
Well, only 5 at the time, and she had the other 5 after we moved there.
Okay. All right, so even on heroin, she was having babies?
Yes.
Back then, I don't think they took them from you if you had a baby on heroin. Like now, if you have a baby that's addicted, you're addicted to drugs and you have the baby, they take it directly to CPS or a family member.
Yes.
But back then, I think you were still in charge of your life.
Exactly.
The government is in charge of your life now.
Absolutely.
As we know with the Adrian Peterson case, you can't spank your kids. Now, I haven't seen the video or the pictures, so I don't know, but I know that when we got spankings with switches, the bruises were never pretty.
Exactly, and I used to experience that myself, and I don't think it was right.
Right. I don't think it's right either, but it's tradition from slavery. When we were whipped when we got here, we whipped our children. And I think that there needs to be a balance, but to go to jail, I don't think that's the solution. Because at some point, who decided it's wrong? You know, I mean, when Africans were brought here, we were whipped, we were killed, we were beat, we whipped our children. That was discipline. I mean, even as a slave, when you were a slave, you were whipped for discipline. So physical violence has always been the way we've disciplined people. So so as black people in this culture, we were raised to beat our kids like the master beat us. And so people have spanked and spanked and spanked traditionally for years. So I'm just, you know, I don't know when it was decided that it's against the law, but I'm just saying we were spanked and whipped and hit with switches and left bruises.
Psychologists decided that they found that adults that tend to be violent had a history of abuse in the home, and when they describe the abuse, they describe being whipped. Psychologists deem that as abuse.
Yeah, but the problem I have with that, I actually, when I said who decided, I actually knew that, and I appreciate you sharing that. No, I really do. I do, because I know that they say abusers grow up to be, abused people grow up to be abusers. I mean, I understand that. But then if a police officer says you shouldn't do something, he's going to shoot you. So at some point there has to be a balance between physical violence to your children, because as a single mother, I know that the only way I could psychologically control my child is to spank her and for her to be more afraid of me than the streets, because I wasn't there. I was working. So I'm just saying there has to be some physical, some children require some physical fear
Right.
rather than running the street, and the fear of the police, because the police don't give you a second chance. They don't get chastised. So I'm just saying the balance in society, it became okay for a cop to kill you if you don't turn around or if they think you have a phone in your hand. But if you spanked your child and left a bruise for the same reason, then you go to prison. I'm just saying there has to be a balance in society when we decide that, well, why don't we have the psychologists decide on what should happen with these police officers when they're disciplining you? Because at some point you need to let me discipline my child if I think it's physical and leave a whip. He's still alive and I'm still paying his bills.
But also, excuse
versus
me, also I think that you could also go overboard with it.
No, I agree, but I mean, at least you're alive. I'm just saying with police officers, you're dead. And so I'm just saying some kids who are disciplined physically, they don't get in the way of police officers because they respect authority. You know, so then they'll never be killed by a police officer. Because I know a lot of kids are sarcastic with police officers and scare them, so that happens. But I didn't mean to get off on that tangent.
Well,
so anyway, you were in the foster system.
Yes.
This is about you. You were in the foster system, and at some point, I know you age out of that system. Did you stay in the system to where you aged out?
No, I ran away and lived on the streets.
In Los Angeles or here?
In Los Angeles. All this is in Los Angeles. And I experienced the foster system with some good and some bad. And for me, mostly it was good because I met a lot of nice foster ladies that instilled a lot of good in me, you know, for as caring about people and things like this. And also I was living two different lifestyles. I was living this nice guy and I was living this gangster style too. You know, hanging out with my friends. We were stealing and doing all kind of stuff. I can remember a time when my mom, I was at the store and they caught me stealing and they called her. And when I got home, and she beat me with an ironing cord.
Oh my God.
And I never stole anything else.
So saying physical violence sometimes works.
Right. So the system I eventually grew out of and eventually, you know, started a family and everything. But at the same time, I was also living a double life.
Now, why do you think it was okay for you to live a double life? What was it? You said your foster parents or ladies who raised you were good people, so they were instilling good things in you, but yet you had that street side. Why do you think at that age, I know it's hard to know, but why do you think you didn't want to just stay on the good side of
Well, it's just like today kids, you know. You go to school and you see kids with different type of stuff and you want it. And I never had the type of money to buy the things that they were having that was in style. So I sold drugs and ran for people and things like that there to get that money to buy those kind of things.
Okay.
You know.
All right, so how'd you get to Houston?
Well, I was, first I was avoiding the draft. And eventually I signed up for the Navy. I went to the Navy, stayed in the Navy a few years. And coming from the Navy, on the way to the Navy, I decided to come and visit my father, let him know I was going to the Navy. And after I got out the Navy, he asked me to come and live in Houston, and that's how I came to Houston.
Now, could you go to the Navy back then to avoid the draft? Or is that a part of the draft?
Yes.
Okay.
I avoided the draft by signing up for the Navy.
And you did 2 years in the Navy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then so you moved, and then after that you moved to Houston with your father.
Right.
And then what happened?
Well, eventually I went back to California, which I call my home, and I started raising my own family. But I was working and things, but I was still selling drugs.
What was the drugs then, back then?
Back then we were doing pills. You know, we had.
So that's the 70s.
Yes, in the 80s. We had our own doctor's office and doctor writing prescriptions, and we were writing prescriptions also. And, you know, a lot of you guys know how the game went. And eventually I grew out of that and just started becoming a regular citizen.
Okay.
Stopped selling drugs, and I didn't like it because I never had enough money. So I eventually went back to selling drugs, drinking, using drugs.
And what was the drug of choice for you to use?
Cocaine, weed, alcohol.
Now, cocaine became big in the 80s, as I recall. Would you agree with me? Or was
Yes.
That had you ever heard of cocaine in the 70s?
No, just heroin.
Okay. So you started selling and using cocaine.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what happened to your family?
Well, my children?
Mhm.
Oh, I left them. And
In L.A.?
yes, and moved back to Houston. And that was one of the worst mistakes I made in my life.
Now, what made you leave them?
I wasn't in love with their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that she was doing to me, I just didn't, she was nagging me all the time, so I decided to leave.
How many children did you have?
Well, I have 4 sons.
With her?
2 with her, the one that I left.
Okay.
And I left them and moved to Houston, and calling myself wanting a better lifestyle because of I started still selling drugs and everything. And I was the type of father who never sent money, never done anything for my children.
And why was that?
Because I just didn't care.
Really?
I just didn't care.
It just never crossed your mind?
No.
Were you more focused on the woman or the women you left versus the children?
No, I was focused on me.
Mm-hmm.
It was about me, what I wanted, you know. She was going to make sure that they survived. The welfare system was going to keep them fed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the attitude that I had then.
Mm-hmm.
And it was wrong,
Right.
you know, after I became a man
Mm-hmm.
years later. And things that I did then, after I look back on my life, I never had anybody to guide me, only pimps and prostitutes and thieves and stuff. People like this, those are the type of people that I was associated with. So I had to be that way. So I never,
What about those good foster ladies, though?
I love them today.
I know, but I know they weren't pimps and prostitutes, right?
No.
So they showed you the way.
Yeah, they
You
did.
just didn't choose their way.
I didn't choose that way because I wanted money to survive.
Okay.
That's all I knew.
Right, but they didn't have any money.
No, they
And
had
they were
love.
surviving.
They had love.
And they were surviving, right?
Right.
But love wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah, I wanted that love, but I wanted money too.
Right. I'm just wondering how you started valuing money more than love in that environment. You know, because that environment feels safe and secure, but yet you know, the money street life is not secure.
Well, we think it is.
Oh, okay, okay.
We think it is. We don't never think we're gonna get caught.
Oh, okay.
I never got caught for doing anything like that.
Right.
So we always think that we're not gonna get caught. Some people don't get caught.
That's true.
So
That's the motivation.
right.
Especially back then. I mean, it just wasn't as a police society like it is now. Because kids get caught now. They can barely get away with anything.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, people didn't get caught. Or if they did, police just didn't deal with it unless you were out of control with it.
Exactly.
And we didn't have that many prisons. You know, it wasn't a
Well, it wasn't a
tough
lock
on
'em up society.
crime.
It wasn't a lock 'em up society. It was
Right.
more, you know, if you violent, you a drug dealer and you killing people, then they're going to lock you up, you know, but they're going to come after you. But if you just kind of staying in your area and not causing many problems, the officers didn't set you up and come after you like that unless you were notorious or violent.
Right.
We knew in Texas when I was growing up as a kid, when we were aware about crimes and time, that murder only carried 7 years. So we knew that the people that had committed murder, that the most time they were going to do was 7 years. So to us, that it's still as a child, it's like you're in the 5th or 6th grade. You like, well, I can't do it now because I will never graduate. But to know back then at that age that the maximum time you would get for taking another life in your community. Now, I'm not saying if you do race outside your race, but it was the average time was like 7 years.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah. See, I never heard of anything like that because I never encountered police or any type of thing like that.
Now, when you were growing up in L.A., they didn't have gangs yet, did they?
Oh yeah, we had.
But not y'all had the colors, blue and blood?
No, we didn't have that.
I know, we just had neighborhood gangs. I mean, everybody
Right.
had those, but I'm just saying the organized gangs, 52nd Street,
Right.
you know, all that. I mean, blues and bloods. I mean, I never heard of gangs until that movie with Sean Penn called Colors. I mean, that's the first time I had ever heard of it. And after that, it seems like
What
it
about the
took off.
Warriors?
I never saw that.
Oh.
But okay, well, all right. So then you're in Houston, and some events happen. You live in your life of crime, and eventually you go down. You get arrested for murder.
Right.
Okay, and you stay in jail for, according to the record, 672 days before you sign for time. Now, tell me about that experience. Since you were out living your life of crime, why didn't you bond out?
I didn't have the resources,
The money?
the money,
Really?
because I had my money invested.
Okay.
Someone ran off with that, so I couldn't get out of jail.
Okay, so you didn't have any money or any support in the streets with all the people you were running with to bond you out. Is that the first reality, that you don't have friends in the street, or not?
Well, that was the first reality that really hit me, that, man, don't nobody care about me. You know, where are they at?
It's not a lot of honor amongst these people.
Exactly.
Not a lot of honor.
Well, there's supposed to be. You running those streets like it is.
No, the pirates, when, you know, they'll rob pirates. And it's
Pirates rob pirates.
Pirates rob pirates, you know.
All right. Okay. So
they robbed me.
they robbed you, right? All right.
Right.
So when you're in there for murder, what is now currently in 2014 the general rules? If someone gets charged with murder, they're off. The first plea bargain offer is 40 years. Back in 1995, when you were charged with murder, what was the plea bargain offer for you?
They offered me 15 years.
Now, was that the first offer or just the lowest offer?
The first.
Okay. And that's interesting. That's very low. And was it because it was black-on-black crime, you think, or was it?
I believe because they really didn't have the evidence that they needed to really convict me.
Okay. So a year and 7 months later, it's time for you to go to trial in the Honorable Myron Love's court, the 177th District Court. Your appointed attorney is James Stafford, who's still a lawyer today, criminal lawyer today, owns a lot of property downtown. And you're set for trial. And when I look up what's public record, it's not very much. It just says a jury was sworn. You went through the jury selection process. A jury was sworn, but then you pled guilty to 20 years. So tell me what happened. How'd you get from swearing in a jury, starting a trial, and then pleading guilty?
Because I always thought that I could get away with murder.
Okay.
You know, and
you thought there was not enough evidence based on what you'd seen.
Evidence that I could get away with murder. And the lawyer came to me at the last minute saying that they had evidence that they didn't really have.
Like, do you remember what it was?
Well, they said that they found the victim's blood on my shoes and some of my clothes. And I knew that for sure that the only way that they could find that is the evidence had to have been planted. I knew that for a fact. So I had no choice to sign for 20 years.
So victim's blood was on my shoes, and what else what did he say?
And my clothes.
Oh, and clothes. And so why wasn't it 15 anymore?
Because I really don't know that. So I just told him that I wanted the 15 after he told me that. Because I could see the light at the end of the tunnel with 15 years. So they came back and said, no, we'll give you 20. So I said, okay, and I signed for the 20 years. And I went to prison for 17 and a half years. 17
and a half years is a long time.
Yes.
And back then, you didn't have to do half time. Now you do. I think you were eligible for parole back in '95 in a fourth of the time. Why do you believe you stayed so long? Did you get there and start fighting or cutting up or beating people up? Or selling dope in the jail or what? I mean, were you written up a lot? I'm just wondering why you did 17 and a half years based on what you could tell?
Well, I had to do half of my time
Oh, you
because
did?
I
Okay, it
came
was
in the
half time.
system just about that time
When they
you have-
changed it. Okay.
When they changed the law to where you have to do half. So I had to do 10 years
Right.
before I was eligible for parole.
Okay.
And I mean, you know, I was just a normal guy in prison, you know, who did a little this and did a little that. That wasn't right. And I still had this attitude in my head that I didn't care about nobody.
Really?
I didn't care about my family. I didn't care about my children. I didn't care about nobody but Melvin.
Really? Even in prison?
Even in prison. I went to prison. I became Muslim. And I stayed a Muslim for about 5 or 6 years. And the whole time I was a Muslim, I didn't care about nobody but Muslims. I was being taught that. And one day they turned on me.
Really?
So
How'd they do that?
they accused me of doing something that I didn't do. So they kind of like shunned me out of the dean. So I went my way. And one day they had a program in prison called KAIROS Prison
Oh,
Ministry.
yeah, I know it.
And
Where were you at?
I was at the Torres unit.
Where is that?
That's down in Hondo, Texas.
Oh, okay. It's close
Hi,
to my
everybody.
hometown. San
KAIROS
Antonio.
brothers and sisters.
Huh?
Just speaking to my KAIROS brothers and
He's doing a
sisters.
shout out to the KAIROS community.
In the KAIROS community, isn't that where they make you, tell us about that program? Don't they make you be honest with everybody and
Well, no,
get back with your family? And
it's a program that they introduce you to the love of Christ. They have volunteers coming in the prison who's,
how do you spell KAIROS?
it's a KAIROS.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Yes.
So explain that program.
And they come in for 4 days and they have a certain curriculum that we follow. And we provide food and cookies for everyone in the unit and the 42 candidates that's coming to the program. And we introduce the love of Christ to them. And many lives been changed by the KAIROS Prison Ministry. And I'm involved in that also right today. And I met a gentleman named Jim Irwin who,
He was an outside guy?
yes,
Jim Irwin. Where was he from? Corpus? No.
he was from New Braunfels. You know, the things that they instilled in me.
Bringing tears to your eyes. Now tell me why it's so emotional for the guy that was all into just Melvin.
Because,
Because it's all about Melvin, right?
right.
So,
It was all about Melvin until I got introduced and shown that the love of Christ is bigger than me, you know. And the compassion that these guys and these ladies bring to these prisons to change people's lives through love is unreal.
give me an example, if you can.
They come in, they don't judge you. They don't criticize you. They tell you about how Christ loved people, and they love people just like Christ loved people.
Wow.
And, you know, they bring this food into you, to the unit. Some people hadn't ate fajitas and all type of
Free world
desserts and
food. Just
free world food in years, you know. Right before I came to the KAIROS program, I was talking to one of the inmates, and he said, man, what do you think our chances are of getting a steak, you know, in prison? Slim and none. Well, they have a program called KAIROS, man. If you could get in this program, man, they got steak and everything over there, chicken, all kind of food. So a lot of guys come for the food, but once they come in for the food and they get introduced to the program, their lives change. Their lives change because they could see a better way, you know. And you got these guys who's been married 40, 50 years, They coming to you, they telling them, you know, how they been with one woman. And these guys ain't never been with just one woman all their lives and stuff. And, you know, well, when they introduced me to this program and I got to hearing all their testimonies and stuff, man, I wanted that. So I wanted to change my life. I didn't want to be that old guy no more who walk around, you know, didn't have no remorse for what he did or just, it was all about Melvin, but it wasn't.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Absolutely, please.
When a middle-aged white man tell you he love you, that can set you back and say, whoa.
Did that happen to you too?
Well,
I can imagine it.
Well, I'm working in prison ministry, and some of the same guys that Melvin talking about, we in fellowship with them because of Path of Freedom. And I understand what their message is, but I can still be in his shoes because of the prison experience. But when a middle-aged white man comes inside of prison, now he's inside. I'm not meeting him on the streets, and he sits right in front of me, and I know real when I see it. I know genuine when I see it. And he looks at me and say, brother, I love you.
That's powerful.
That's powerful. Now in prison, we can't tell each other we love each other unless we in a
gay relationship.
And
right.
we, of course, that was something that only everybody doesn't get involved in.
Right.
So what's missing from when you're doing a long period of time is
love.
That's not part of doing
prison.
time.
Yeah, it's not part of doing
so
time.
When these guys come in, and you've been down there for years and years, now the caveat is the food, but what really gets you is the love. So and that's when something changes inside of you, because that may be your first time experiencing true, authentic love, and it's coming through a middle-aged white man.
Is that the way you felt?
Yes, I felt like that.
Now, Jim Irwin, tell us about how long is that KAIROS program?
How long is it? It's for 4 days.
Okay, so it's that 4 days. That's it.
4 days.
And they're there from 8 to 5 all day?
Okay. And also after that, we meet once a month and once a week. We go inside the prisons, you know, through the KAIROS. It's called Pray and Share.
But I'm talking about when you were inside the prison.
Right. When I was inside the prison, they would come once a week, and we would have reunions once a month.
And Jim, what was Jim Irwin to you? Was he personally assigned to you, or he's just the person that touched you?
He was a person that touched me, touched my life, changed my whole perspective on thought.
How did he do that? I mean, you had those great foster ladies, you had the pimps and the hustlers, you had other people, your father who asked you to move to Houston, but then you're saying Jim Irwin changed your life when you had all these powerful people in your life. So tell me what was special about that relationship.
It was special because he saw something in me that I didn't really see.
Like what?
I don't know. We have to ask him.
Okay.
We have to ask him, but I guess it's just the type of person that he knew that I was deep inside. You know. It's just,
did he listen to you?
Oh, yes. He listened. That's what the program is all about. Listen, listen, love, love. You know, and they listen to us. And they love us. And that was one of the turnarounds of my prison life.
What year were you in prison, since you did 17 and a half years when you met Jim
I was
Irwin?
in 2005 when I met Jim.
So you're almost out. You've been in jail 10 years, basically, and 8 years in prison, but total 10 years. So 2005. So did you continue that relationship the next 7 years, I mean? Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And what would he bring to you on a monthly or weekly basis? Was he weekly for visits or monthly after the 4 days?
He would come weekly and monthly, you know. Not only him, it was other guys too.
Right, right. But you teared up with him, so that's why I'm asking you about him in particular.
That's my boy.
Okay.
But I think what it is, Vivian, it's not so much him meeting him, but who he introduced him to.
Exactly.
So that emotion is when I first met God, when I first was introduced to Jesus, this man introduced me
to the love of Jesus.
Right.
Christ.
So when I think about him, he brought me to to the door
Right.
and knocked and said, I got somebody I want you to meet. He introduced us.
That's right. Exactly.
And you know, you the man to introduce you to God, of course, when you hear his name, gonna be a lot of honor going there. But what Melvin is doing is duplicating that. And what he's involved in being, what's the guy's name?
I don't want to get that far yet.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to get that far yet. I didn't get to put it on Facebook. I don't know if you did, or send out my constant contact, so we're not getting our calls, but we still have 30 minutes. So I want to give me a little time. So 7.5 more years. How does that change your prison experience after getting in the KAIROS program?
Well, I stopped doing a lot of things, gambling and fighting, things like that. I started focusing on my life, my future, what I want to do, the type of things that I want to do with my children. How could I go about building relationships with my children after I did them like I did? And they also have a program, it's faith-based dorms that they have in prison, who you go and live inside a dorm who is strictly faith. It's a Christian dorm, and volunteers come in and out. And I was introduced to a program called A Quest for Authentic Manhood. And during this program, I learned how to become a man of God. I've learned how to heal wounds, because we'll go back from childhood and know that we have wounds that need to be healed before we could go on any further. And I went through that program, and it was such incredible feeling that I got out of that, because I knew that once I got out, that I could go back and heal the wounds from my children. I remember seeing a film one time, and a guy on the film, he was talking about guys abandoning their children and stuff. And he said, men, don't abandon your children. If you just send them 25 cents or $1, that will help buy a loaf of bread. And man, I just broke down in tears, because I thought about all the years that I never done nothing for my children. You know, but all this time, man, I'm coming into myself of who Melvin really was.
Who God created you to be.
Exactly, a man of God. So I had to retrain myself, my thoughts and everything. See, a lot of guys would say, I had a conversation with a guy once, he said that, man, this prison here don't rehabilitate you, but that's not true. Prison rehabilitates you if you want to be rehabilitated. You know, you have to take the initiative to change yourself. And this is what I wanted. I didn't want to come outside of those walls being that old guy that I used to be. I didn't know. But once outside, man, I won't change nothing.
So when you went to prison, you were in your 40s?
I was 45 years old.
Wow. So you lived in the free world a long time.
Yes.
Before you actually went to prison. A lot of these young guys who get murder cases go in their 20s, but you went at 45.
Yes.
Wow. So you lived a lot of life, and you had a lot to lose. You know, you lived a lot of life. You were really giving up freedom.
Yes. And you know, a lot of times, man, we all make mistakes in life. You know, anybody could do something stupid.
Tonight.
In a second. I used to didn't believe in temporary insanity, but I do. Because you could be so angry, you could be so not yourself, and do anything behind anger, you know.
And remember growing up, there were people who, oh, don't set me off, you know.
Right.
It was almost a badge of honor to go off. You know, luckily we weren't stabbing and shooting so much when we had school fights, but it could happen. Some people did do that. They brought knives and things, even growing up in the 60s and 70s.
Yes.
But you're right. And that's part of the maturing process, I think, in life. and in God is to think first, and realize nothing's that important that you can't sleep overnight. Because a lot of times, don't you agree that when we sleep overnight, it's not that important the next day? Something that you want to kill somebody for one day is really not that important the next day.
You know, there's nothing that a person could do that another person should take their life. Nothing. Nothing. You know, and it's been many nights that, you know, I regretted what I did. And if
Now, how did you finally stop thinking about Melvin and become remorseful and have the attitude that you have now, that there's nothing a person should do for another person to take their life? When did that come? Was that after the program?
No, that was when I got introduced to the program. Started learning about Christ, learning about the Bible, learning that, you know, it's not about Melvin, but it's about others. You know, that's why the Bible always says better to give than receive.
But some people might think that, I'm a Christian person, but some people think that the Bible can make you a pushover. And the streets tell you not to be a pushover. Because sometimes in Christianity, you have to take a lot if you're putting another person first. And sometimes that's a difficult thing to do. How did you gain that patience and tolerance?
Through classes that I took, you know, reading the Bible, listening to other people's testimonies.
How did you learn about your own experience in your Christian walk? Because you had like 7.5 years. So did you practice things differently?
Oh, yes. I stopped doing a lot of things that I did, gambling, you know, fighting and talking, cursing.
So even though you were in your 40s, you were fighting?
Oh, yes.
Men your age or older, young guys?
Also those youngsters.
Really? And like when the youngsters joined the gang in prison, you were older. Did you have to join the gang too?
Well, I had my own clique.
All right. So you was a big papa, huh?
No. See, I was a friendly clique.
So you was friend with all the cliques, huh?
Right. I was everybody's allies, you know, but on a friendly base, you know.
I don't hear many people in the Torres unit. Is there a certain age group that's there, or people from a different area? Because that's kind of far. That's by San Antonio.
Yeah, it's a middle range. There's a lot of good guys that's locked up who has regretted the crimes that they've committed.
So once you gained your remorsefulness 10 years in, how did you deal with that then?
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, you said when you went in there, you were still all about Melvin, but once you got into KAIROS and you learned and you gained some sense of remorsefulness, did that sadden you, or did it make you work on forgiveness? I just wondered how it changed your mind. You're not thinking just about Melvin now. What are you thinking about?
My children.
Okay. And have you been able to mend that?
Oh, yes.
Now, were you able to start while you were in prison, or did you have to wait until you got out?
Well, first I learned how to heal the wounds. And once I got out, I called them and asked them for forgiveness, and they accepted that.
Each one of them, all 4?
Oh, God, yes.
Really? What a blessing.
Oh, man. I mean,
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. So in 2012, when you got out, you found your children. I mean, because how did you find them?
Well, I never...
People have cell phones now and things. It's not like they're listed in the phone book anymore.
How did I never... Majority of mom... Well, my 2 children, Brandon and Bryson's mom, always kept in touch.
Is that the oldest two's mom or the youngest?
The baby boy and the second one.
Okay.
They mom always kept in touch with me and let me know, you know, what they were doing, always.
Even in prison, she would write you?
Yes. So I always knew, and she would always send me pictures of them and everything. But I write them here and there, you know, and tell them, and they would write me back here and there. But I knew that that wound wasn't healed.
Right.
So once I got out, I called them, and they told me they forgave me. I told them what I did, and they forgave me. And one of my sons, Brandon, He works for all companies. He's a supervisor, and he came down here to Texas.
Where'd he live?
He lived in Long Beach, California.
Okay.
And I got a call from him. He said that he was in town and he wanted to see me. God, that just...
You didn't know he was coming?
No.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know what to do. I was...
Yeah. Well, how old was he the last time you'd seen him in person?
God, he must have been about 11. And he's up in his 30s now. You know, something like that. And when we got together and everything, I had just got out of prison. I wasn't out that long. And when we saw each other, and he was tall, man, handsome guy. I'm like, whoa, he kind of looked like me, you know.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, Melvin.
So we embraced.
It's a nice plug.
So we embraced and everything, and we talked. He forgave me and everything, and
So he did the right path in life, it appears.
yes, he's a good guy, good kid.
And so what about Brace and what was the other?
Bryston.
Bryston. What happened with him?
Bryston,
Is he in LA too, or he?
yes, he live in LA too. He's doing okay.
Have you had a chance to see him?
No, I haven't seen Bryston, but he's doing all right. And I have another son, Melvin. He lives in New Mexico. We talk, you know. We're gonna get together next year.
I know you've only been out 2 years, so.
Right. Well, I'm off for parole in January, so.
Free. I know. So, and what about your fourth son?
And my fourth son, we have a relationship.
And where is he?
He's here in Houston.
So did you get to see him sometime?
See him and my grandkids.
Okay, great.
Man, I love him, and he accepted me and forgave me, and man, I love him.
Wow.
God.
That's a blessing. So when you got out, you were, I guess, 62. Were you able to work then? I mean, how'd you live after being in prison for almost 20 years?
After I got out of prison, my whole life was based on faith, because I knew that God was going to roll out the red carpet for me. I just had to get out. So I got out. I went to a halfway house, stayed in the halfway house 14 days.
In Houston?
In Houston. I learned about the Veterans Administration, who had a program for incarcerated veterans getting out of prison. So I went and
were you honorably discharged after 2 years? It seems like you're supposed to stay longer than 2 years.
Yes, okay. I was honorable.
It was just a 2-year stint.
Right. So went into the VIP program over at Midtown for veterans, U.S. vets. And I met this, I'm living and everything, and I'm doing, you know, just living, trying to put myself in a position to get study income. I work for the senior citizen program to support myself. And one day I was just going 100 miles an hour. I met this guy. He called me over and said, "Come here." He said, "Man, you need to slow down. What's going on with you?" So I told him I had just got out of prison and everything, and man, I'm trying to put myself in a position to support myself and all this here. He said, "Well, come here, sit down. Let me talk to you." He said, "You slow down. You're moving too fast."
Now, where were you when he said this?
I was at Midtown Terrace.
Okay.
The guy's name was Danny Sneed.
Now, you were at the halfway house then?
No, I'm out the halfway house.
Okay.
I'm over at Midtown Terrace. I'm in the VIP program through U.S. veterans.
Okay.
And we talked and we became friends, and he was telling me some good things because he had been out and experiencing all these things, and I listened to him. And I started getting involved in Path to Freedom prison ministry, started volunteering over at the Bread of Life, started working around the church and everything, so I started growing. And I became a member at Lakewood Church. One day I met another good guy. His name was Bruce Givens. When I first got out of prison, I know this for a fact, that God sent angels to watch over me, because things happened to me that just wouldn't normally happen. And I'm just so grateful for the KAIROS Prison Ministry for showing me this love. There's just so many wonderful things that's going on in the community that I'm involved in.
Now, how were you able to support yourself once you got up?
Well, eventually I got a VA pension through my military injuries. So that's how I support myself.
Wow.
Every month.
Wow. So they set that up from you when you were in that VIP program.
Well, I set it up for myself.
Right, right, right.
But the VIP program is for homeless veterans.
Okay.
And they give you a place to come, and it's a transition place.
Let's take a call. Caller, thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King. What's your comment?
I'm Ray Sims, and Melvin is on our team, and we are just blessed to have him.
Thank you, Ray for calling. And when you say he's on your team, what do you mean by that?
He is a KAIROS volunteer. In fact, he had his first weekend last weekend, and he was a blessing to us then, and he's a blessing to us now. He is doing more to bring in new people to this program than we've seen in years, and I think that's just the work of God himself.
Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate your comment. And may the love of God continue in the prisons so that men can come out better. And thank you for your work in the community. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
What he meant by the team is, after I came out of prison, I hooked up with the KAIROS Prison Ministry. I've already been back inside the Darrington unit to introduce and show the love of these brothers inside prisons, to let them know that if God could do it for me, that he could also do it for them. You know, all you have to do is just have faith that God will change your life, and he's going to open up doors that you never thought could be open.
Now, do you think you have to be a certain age for that, or are you finding young men can accept God in their 20s in prison in the proper way?
It's all up to the individual. Once they hear different stories and things, you know, eventually they might come around. But some guys go to prison. You know, I don't want you guys to, you know, get me wrong or anything, but some of them get stuck in yesterday. Like if they came in 95, they still stuck on that mentality of 95, of what they used to do and all this here. And some of them want to change, some of them don't want to change. But, you know, me, myself, you know, I had to change because I wanted to be respected in a type of way that, not by just gangsters and stuff, but by people I never associated with. You know, like men have been married for so many years, godly men, you know. This is the kind of life I love. I'm also involved, and I'm an assistant director over at St. Mary's Church. We run a food pantry for the community.
Which St. Mary's is that?
On Yellowstone and Scott at
St. Mary's United Methodist.
Yes, United Methodist at Reverend Leo Tyler.
Okay.
And we just started that. So
that's a beautiful thing. Now, do
yes.
they have any prison ministries at Lakewood Church?
Yes, they do, but I'm not involved with those guys.
Okay.
You know, but I've been approved to go into all the prisons in Houston. I mean, in the state of Texas. So I'm going to be working with them also.
Okay.
When I get time, so I'm forgot about you guys.
So I see a ring on your left hand. Are you married now?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
It's on the way.
You're on the way. Okay. All right. Is he ready? Is he ready, Danny?
Yeah, I mean,
because Danny believes in, you know, you got to slowly get back into the relationships, because relationships are the triggers to sometimes make us go back into the wrong path. And so I wanted to know if Danny had approved of this yet. I know he wants 6 months. Your first 6 months, I know he doesn't want you involved. So maybe you made it.
Let me say this here. We talked about this on the way here. That was the only thing that I didn't listen to Danny about getting into a relationship. but I did
Right away.
right away.
Are you still in it? That one didn't work.
Oh,
All right, she may be watching.
Okay.
oh, it worked.
Okay. All right.
It
All
works.
right. All right.
It works.
Okay.
But the fact is, and he made it a point, he said, man, I listened to everything you told me except that one thing. I got in the relationship. But today in hindsight, you know, it wasn't said that all fail. It's just set yourself up to succeed first. Work on Melvin. And I'm here because, and you're here, man, so I can celebrate all the accomplishments you've made thus far. I'm very proud of you, man.
Well, thank you, Danny.
You know,
Means a
you
lot to
inspire me.
That means a
And what I suggested to Melvin that he took hold to is get involved in service. Get involved in giving back. And the next thing I know, he took it to a level time 10. He would stay at that church, and he continues to find avenues to give back. Even though he doesn't have to work, he does work as hard as somebody that gets a check on a 40-hour work week. You can find him volunteering at our church where he's not a member.
Yeah, I think I've seen him before. Let's take a quick call. We're running out of time, but we're getting some late calls. Caller, thank you for calling Truth and Justice with Vivian King, please. What's your comment?
What a moving show.
Thank you.
And Dandy dated himself by, in the 70s, if you committed murder one in Harris County, you did 7 years. If you killed a spouse, it was second degree, and you did 2 years.
See?
So that's what he was thinking.
Okay.
And then he doesn't look like he's in his mid-50s.
He's a full-grown man, that's for sure. That's for sure. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
I also want to say this here. I don't want to forget this here. A good friend of mine, Larry Voss. He has a ministry that feed the homeless on Alameda and 59 up under the bridge. His ministry is called Fish and Bread Prayer Ministry. He's doing a lot of good things, and I'm also involved with him, helping him with that, providing clothes and food and things for the homeless. So I advise guys who's coming out of prison to get involved. You know, just stay focused, because if you stay focused on God and give back, God's gonna roll out that red carpet for you.
And what about your desire? Have you quelched your desire or killed your desire to have money and fame and all those things and settled for the love of God and love of man and your children? Because, you know, that was what motivated you. So I'm wondering, how is that? You're out here, you do have kind of a flashy ring on. And so I was just wondering, how is the money materialistic issue, how are you dealing with that now that you're in the free world?
Well, I mean, anybody could go out and get a ring.
I ain't mad at you. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm just asking. It just made me think about it. I know you can get one at, you know, the pawn shop. So I mean,
Right.
I'm not.
That's where
not
it came from.
That's not the issue. But I'm just asking. It just made me think about it. How are you dealing with wanting more money than your VA check?
It's because it's not about me. I have a secure place to stay, I have food to eat. God's blessing me. Everything that I do it on the bus. I don't even have a vehicle.
I understand.
It's not about Melvin. Even if I had a vehicle, I could do more things. But it's not about Melvin. It's about giving back, helping other people who need help. If I could just say, how you doing? I wake up every day to lift people up.
Amen.
No matter how low you are. I don't judge nobody. I don't care, because anybody could be in any predicament at any time. Even the homeless. You don't look at them. You look at them through the eyes of God.
Right.
So I try to look at people like that. I'm not saying that I'm perfect and I'm all this here, but I have this certain attitude of love and care. Mm-hmm. And if I don't have no more money or whatever, I'm still not going to stop doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Volunteering. That's what I'm about. You know, some people are called to preach and do this. I'm called to serve in ministries, volunteer. Right. If you need a volunteer and I could do it, here I come.
Right. So your God was money back in the old days.
Exactly.
Your God is God and the service of God
exactly.
now. and the volunteerism and how you can help someone.
Other people.
Other people, and love other people.
Yes.
And be that man that looks in someone's eyes and tells them that you love them because God loves you.
And not only that, I want to be the type of person that my grandkids say, man, Pawpaw was an all right guy. He loved God.
And he loved us.
And he loved us, you know, and he loved people.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good stuff.
You know.
That's good.
And
what will you do, though? Do you have any, I mean, I know you're a mature man, and I feel a little awkward asking this. We only have 2 minutes. But what if somebody tries to put some cocaine in your face? Somebody does try to trigger you in the wrong way. Where are you
well,
now?
let me tell you this here. I've been sober for almost 20 years. No drugs, no alcohol. And I take my sobriety very serious. So people already know this because I tell them. So they ain't gonna come sideways
With you.
with me because I'm involved in Celebration Recovery. If you know anything about that, that's worldwide over at Lakewood Church. Hi, Shirley. And sobriety is a serious thing because without sobriety, you can't think straight. Mm-hmm. So you have to always be straight to think straight.
That's good
So
stuff.
you go to
man.
meetings still?
Oh, yes, I go to meetings, you know, not like I used to because I'm doing other stuff, but there's nothing that nobody could say or do to ever make me drink, or anything ever in life.
No triggers. No negative triggers.
Oh, no. No.
Disappointment, death.
No. I care about what people think about Melvin.
Now, and the good part. Well, I'm being told to wrap this up. So, Danny, I'm going to let you have the last word.
Well, again, I'm just proud of you. This was about Melvin and celebrating the success of him making the transition. I still believe that if you change your lifestyle, you can change your identity. Melvin changed his lifestyle, and you can see the transformation. He's coming across very genuine. You can feel it. I know the audience can see it and feel it, and it's going to inspire somebody. It's inspiring me. I can even see Vivian, you know, it's at certain points of the show being inspired by who you are. And just what that guy that saw in you, I saw that in you when I saw you rushing past me that day. And I believe that the audience will see the same thing, that God has a purpose for your life, and I believe you're living it out.
I'm so proud of both of you men, and thank you so much for sharing and telling your story. I'm being told to wrap this up
Just
now.
let me say this
okay,
one
say
thing.
It quickly.
If I've done any harm to anybody in any kind of way, then or now, please find in your heart to forgive me.
Amen. We're wrapping it up. Thank you for watching another episode of Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Hopefully we've educated you about the process, the criminal justice system, the transitions that we make in life, and hopefully we can inspire you to care and volunteer in this community. We'll talk to you next week. Good night. Thank you for tuning in again. Tonight we have something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. We've been charged with crime. This is a show where